A Silent Voice is one of my favorite movies ever, animated or otherwise, and one of the main reasons for this are the distinct and memorable ensemble of characters in it. Almost every character in here stands out with their own personalities and flaws, making them feel very real. In this video, I'll talk about how this movie manages to give several of its characters so much depth. I'll talk about the main leads first, then discuss the supporting characters one by one afterwards, and finally finish with some quick thoughts on the minor characters. I will not be referencing the manga that the movie is based upon, as I have very little recollection of it to begin with, and I want to keep the video exclusively about the movie only. Now, I have already made a video on this movie before, but this time I'll focus just on the characters. This will lead to a bit of repetition for those who have seen my other video, but the rest won't have any issues. Besides, with excellent character work like this, is sitting through another video gushing about this masterpiece of a movie really that hard?
No problemo.
Before we get to the characters, let me give you a quick refresher on the story. A Silent Voice is a heavy character drama that follows Shoya Ishida, a high school student who used to bully a deaf girl named Shoko Nishimiya back when they were children. Ishida and her classmates tormented Nishimiya by throwing out her hearing aids, physically hurting her, and isolating anyone who tried to befriend her. The bullying was so severe that she had to transfer schools and even had one of her ears permanently damaged. After Nishimiya transfers, Ishida becomes the social outcast and faces relentless bullying, much like how he inflicted on her. His best friends and classmates turn against him, placing all the blame on him despite their own involvement. It gets so bad that even as an adult, he cannot recover from it and goes as far as to almost attempt suicide. Ishida's regret, overwhelming guilt, self-hatred, and need for redemption leads to him tracking Nishimiya down and nervously reintroducing himself through sign language in order to befriend her and make amends. The rest of the movie is about him trying to make her happy and bond with both old and new friends alike.
俺と西宮友達になれるかな
Both Ishida and Nishimiya are the main characters of the movie, so let's talk about them first. Ishida is one of my favorite fictional characters ever. His character goes from this immature bully to a mature man seeking forgiveness, to a man who needs to learn how to love himself. Nishimiya isn't far behind either, as she too is a girl struggling with self-love, but for different reasons. As a child, Ishida bullied Nishimiya, but he wasn't alone. One of the main reasons Nishimiya was bullied is because she was the perfect target. Since she and her family kept going through all this trouble because of her condition, she blamed herself for their issues. This leads to her constantly apologizing for everything, even though she is the victim. She believes that if she didn't have her disability, or if she simply didn't exist, the people around her would be happier, instead of constantly having to adjust to her. While she sees herself as a burden to everyone she comes across and starts hating herself for it, Ishida hates himself for being a bully to an innocent girl who just wanted to make friends. His actions caused her lots of physical and emotional harm, which then contributed to her severe PTSD. While he is far from being the only person to bully her, he still played a significant part in it. After getting bullied himself and being isolated from the rest of the class, he begins to understand the pain he caused Nishimiya, which leads to him wanting to help her any way he can, be it reuniting her with old classmates, learning sign language so he could better communicate with her, supporting her little sister during her own low moments, or even just standing with her at their favorite bridge where they feed the fishes. To Ishida, these small gestures are his way of making her feel normal again, to welcome her and her condition with the patience and compassion he lacked in the past. Throughout the movie, Shoya tries harder and harder to fix what he broke, but after a while, the faster you try to glue things together, the faster it will break again. Halfway through the movie, he unintentionally brings back this self-blaming, self-hating thought process of her, when he loses all his friends right in front of her, yet keeps pretending to be happy. It makes her feel worse, thinking she is the reason he lost his friends again. The fact that this is the second time she has seen Ishida lose all his friends after she came into his life deepens her guilt, making her feel responsible for his isolation. It also doesn't help when he exaggerates how happy he feels with her, none of which feels genuine, which is something Shoko can tell and relate with. Throughout the movie, from childhood to their teenage years, Nishimiya always has a smile on her face, even when she's being yelled at, physically hurt, or emotionally. She keeps forcing a fake smile, which is merely a mask she wears to hide how she really feels. The mask eventually breaks when she is overwhelmed by her feelings of guilt and attempts suicide. After this attempt, she can no longer hide how she has been feeling. It all leads to her confronting her emotions head-on and having an epiphany about the value of life and the ones who are close to her. It's only after Ishida saves her that he too fully grasps the extent of her pain. He realizes that to truly move forward, she must forgive herself, and that he too needs to do the same. Their next meetings are much better as a result, since both can openly talk about their feelings and experiences. As a result, they learn to open up and reunite with both old and new friends. Both of their journeys are about finding a way to accept themselves, and while Nishimiya's character arc is a bit more subtle than Ishida's, it's just as compelling. These two alone make this character drama a thing of beauty, but it's not just them that I wanted to make a video about. I already discussed them in my Your Name vs. Silent voice video. I made this video to discuss the supporting characters who are all very well developed despite some of their limited screen times. From likable characters like Yuzuru, Nagatsuka, and Sahara to unlikable ones like Ueno and Kawaii. They all come across as real people with real flaws, personalities, and struggles. Now, enough with the build-up.
西宮さんいますか？
いません。
いますよね。
いません。西宮翔子はいません。
Yuzuru Nishimiya is Shoko's younger sister. She is very protective of Shoko and does not trust people easily because of how they have treated her sister in the past. This includes Ishida, as he is the one who caused her the most pain, and later Ueno, who is a close second. Yuzuru acts tough and strong to support Shoko, even pretending to be her boyfriend just to get rid of Ishida. It doesn't work for obvious reasons, and she resolves to posting his pictures online to get him suspended, only for Shoko to get mad at her. This results in Yuzuru running out of home and Ishida finding her. He takes her his home, feeds her, even gives her his old shoes, and then safely delivers her to her mother, who then slaps Ishida. This is where she starts to open up to Ishida and realize that he may actually mean well. From then onwards, she starts to hang out with them more and more. One of her habits is taking pictures of dead things to show her sister how cruel and awful death is. It seems weird at first until you realize Yuzuru is one of the few people Shoko has ever opened up to. It is implied that in the past, Shoko has confessed to her about wanting to die on more than one occasion.
これ見たら姉ちゃん死にたいなんて言わなくなると思った。どうすればよかったの。
Imagine seeing your sister in so much pain that even at such a young age, she is suicidal, all while both of you are literal children and can't do anything to stop it. So Yuzuru does what she thinks can help. By the end, it is clear that while her motives were noble, her method didn't work, so she then starts taking pictures of living things instead. The fact that she was one decision, one request, 1 minute away from losing her sister changes her perspective. Yuzuru's character shows the impact of Shoko's bullying on her family. Despite her age, she is very clever and mature, and all this is due to her having to grow up witnessing her sister's hardships. Yuzuru knows that behind Shoko's kind smile is a girl in pain.
ねえ、いやしょ。石田君。よかった。無事で。
Tomohiro Nagatsuka becomes Shoya Ishida's first new friend in high school. He is introduced in the background as an awkward kid who, just like Shoya, is isolated from the rest of the class. This makes him an easy target for bullying as one of the students tries to force his bike away. Ishida decides to help Nagatsuka, taking a loss himself but gaining a loyal and supportive friend. Even when others judge Shoya for his past halfway through the movie, he is still on Ishida's side. Nagatsuka's friendship helps Shoya learn to trust people again. He is a bit quirky and funny, providing some light moments in the story, but he too has a major flaw, which also explains why he was so isolated before befriending Shoya. He is overprotective and clingy. There's a small montage where he and Ishida are hanging out, and it's clear how excited he is to finally have a friend who doesn't judge him for his quirks. Ishida, due to his own low self-esteem, doesn't even call out Nagatsuka when he is being so obviously overbearing. Due to Nagatsuka's own low self-esteem, he thinks he's lucky to have a friend like Shoya. So when some new friends join into this group, especially Satoshi, his overprotective nature dials up to being straight up obsessive. Still, Shoya doesn't say anything until the bridge. This is the only time Ishida is mean to Nagatsuka, and while he does seem a bit hurt, he simply forgives Shoya soon after, especially when he finds out about his injury. Nagatsuka visits Shoya in the hospital and bonds with Nishimiya in the process, showing his need for friends. So when he finally reunites with Shoya, he is just happy to have his big friend back, and from then on, we don't see him as overprotective as before. Nagatsuka is a character who came across like a comic relief at first, but by giving him insecurities and a possessive nature, they were able to give this character his own voice.
翔ちゃん。
え？ごめん。
翔ちゃん。私、サハラだよ。覚えてる？いや、あれ、石田君。
In order to help Shoko communicate better with the rest of the class, the school had initially tried to add sign language classes, but almost no one cared enough to join. The only person to step up was Miyoko Sahara. She was one of the few students who tried to be friends with Shoko in elementary school, even when she was being bullied. Years later, when she reconnects with Shoko and Shoya in high school, she wants to make amends. She still feels guilty for not standing up to the bullying, but Shoko doesn't mind that. She is just happy to have her company. Just like anyone would be, Sahara is at first surprised to see Ishida there, but she was able to see the change change in him soon after and accept him the way Shoko did. She doesn't want to feel afraid or regretful anymore and joins their new friend group. However, feeling regretful and having the courage to push back without fear or hesitation are not the same thing, as indicated by her responses to the argument at the bridge. Once the old conflict is brought back, she is unable to fight. Despite her being by far the most physically imposing girl of the group, she cowers down and leaves without any resolution. She herself even acknowledges that when Shoko comes to meet her after Ishida's injury. Sahara's character shows how some people feel regret for not doing the right thing in the past, but despite that knowledge can't help themselves from repeating the same mistakes again.
バカあ、もう知らん。
Naoka Ueno is one of Shoya's former classmates, and she is probably the most nuanced of the supporting characters. She was someone who also bullied Shoko, but unlike Shoya, she didn't feel as guilty about it. It's partly because she feels justified in her hate of Shoko. This largely stems from her being the first friend Shoko technically made but never got the credit for. In the flashbacks, we're shown Ueno being the first to step up and help Shoko. She writes down all the things, from conversations to classwork to assignments, in Shoko's notebook. She is basically doing the work of two, but she never gets any credit for it. On the contrary, she is even bullied by the teacher himself. When she is reading out loud in the class, the teacher scolds her for not doing it well, but due to Shoko's condition, she gets off scot-free. This implants the seed of resentment as Ueno notices the special treatment Shoko gets. Then, to make matters worse, Shoya joins in. He starts the trend of mocking Shoko for fun, and the fact that he does it right after the teacher scolds Ueno makes her notice him more. Throughout the movie, it's implied quite heavily that Ueno has a complicated relationship with Shoya. It started off as them just being classmates, to then her noticing him and joining him in the bullying, to then her joining Ishida's other friends to bully him after Shoko leaves school, to then feeling regretful herself about how things ended up between them. But unlike Ishida, she is unable to properly converse with her victims. Ueno clearly likes Shoya, but her personality is something that turns him away. Instead of seeing it as something she needs to improve on, she gets upset that he has started to care about Shoko. Ueno's character represents the anger and resentment people can hold on to. She struggles to understand why Shoya wants to be friends with Shoko when in her mind she was the reason everything bad in their lives started. She wants to go back to the old days, back when no one was bullied and all of them were friends. Most of all, she wants to be friends with Shoya. This is why she tries to reunite Shoya with his older school friends, the same way Shoya did for Shoko, only she forgot one crucial detail. In Shoko's case, she wanted to meet other friends and even encouraged it, whereas in Shoya's case, he was not informed in advance, leading to the quick reunion, feeling more like an ambush than an attempt at reconciliation. Despite her failed attempts, it is clear that she, at the very least, wants to do good. She wants to stop hating Shoko, hence the camera recording, where she wants them to just coexist, which is a nice way to start, in order to warm up to each other. She doesn't say it out loud, but that's what I felt she meant. But when Shoko blames herself for everything, Ueno realizes that the one thing she has over characters like Kawaii, which is her ability to admit she used to be awful, is taken away from her. Shoko's self-hatred angers Ueno, because despite her wanting to go back to normal, like in the school days, she knows that things haven't changed as much for the rest, and she hates it. Ishida is literally the only character to have changed so drastically, while the rest have remained pretty much the same, and this is a realization Ueno was not ready for. She fights back and slaps Shoko for exposing the cracks in her ideology. She knows that while the past Ishida may have liked her back, this present one doesn't, and the reason he doesn't is because of Shoko. He won't even pay attention to her until Shoko feels normal. But by having all this hatred for herself, Ueno realizes that Shoya will never get what he wants, because Shoko will never feel normal. She hates herself, and this works as a dark reflection on Ueno herself, which lends to her hating Shoko too. So when Shoya snaps during the bridge scene, she realizes the fault in her approach.
ごめん、石田。私、来なきゃよかったな。
This doesn't last for long, however, as once she finds out about Shoya's injury and Shoko's part in it, it's her turn to snap and all the build-up resentment comes out at once, where she beats the shit out of Shoko. The fact that Shoko just stays there and takes it all makes her even more mad, as she knows, despite her rants and physical assault, Shoko most likely will take it without ever fighting back. Her emotional outbursts land on deaf ears, quite literally, and the one thing she could do, which is to physically hurt her, is still not enough. She is disgusted by Shoko and how she tries to take take what Ueno thinks is the easy and selfish way out. Instead of killing the self-hatred in her, she tried to kill herself, becoming the example that most people don't change. And Ueno sees herself within that category, even though she doesn't want to. Even when Shoko's mother interferes, she can't help but hate her too. It's only when Shoya's mother shows up that she stops fighting. Regardless of all that rage she feels, she doesn't try to fight again. This indicates her respect for Shoya's mother, as even her explosive personality decides to step down in order to let a woman whose son is fighting for her life have a moment with the person who got him in that position. A few days later, once the rage cools down, Ueno is seen again. Only this time, she isn't even paying any attention to Shoko. All her focus is on Shoya. If her crush on Shoya wasn't clear enough already, the scene where she's shown at the hospital showcases her desires for all to see. Despite her huge personality, Ueno shows that deep down, she does care. She is at the hospital several times, whether it's late or raining. The film even shows her getting out of the building in different clothes, indicating she's been visiting Shoya the most out of any in the friend group, other than Shoko maybe. Keep in mind, she doesn't need to do this, but she wants to. This is not how a bad person behaves. Action speaks louder than words, and her actions tell the audience that she really likes, if not loves, Shoya, that she regrets her part in his isolation, and even though she blatantly states that she can't ever like Shoko, by the end it's clear that she is warming up to the idea of it. The best indication of this was in the short scene where she curses at Shoko using sign language, the same method she was against back when it was brought up in school. She was literally the only person opposing it back then, only to now use it to communicate with the person she claims to hate the most. Shoko notices that and she loves it. Ueno is embarrassed and walks away, but she comes back soon after to join the friend group during the festival. Ueno is still deeply flawed by the end of the movie, but she is showing signs of growth, and while it's going to take time, it is realistic, as people don't just suddenly become much kinder and more empathetic in a few days. Progress is slow. It takes continuous effort. Ueno showed that effort instead of telling it by learning sign language and taking care of Shoya at the hospital for several days. It doesn't wash out the bad things she's done, but it's a start, and even Shoya notices it, hence the dropping of X from her face. I remember watching several reactions to this movie, and almost no one wanted that cross to drop the second time. The fact that Shoya dropped it shows how mature he is, not just because of the changes in his personality, but because he can notice the small hints of redemption in Ueno. He knows that Ueno is capable of going the distance with this change if she is given the chance. He himself got his chance from Shoko, and he knows how important that chance to prove oneself is. I know this may sound a bit far-fetched and maybe even pretentious to some of you, but this is indeed how I felt about this character, and the more times I watch this movie, the more I like Ueno. As a person, she isn't as morally good as some others, but she is a very interesting character with a lot more to give to the story than just be hated by the audiences. The next character, however, can get all the hate she wants, and I won't mind a bit.
違うよ、ナオちゃん。私と違ってナオちゃんは積極的に西宮さんをいじめてた。全く違う。笑って同調してただけのあんたとはね。
Miki Kawaii was another classmate of Shoya and Shoko. Unlike Ueno, her flaws aren't as loud, making her almost invisible for the most part. The few scenes most people will remember her for are her crying in the classroom, her being upset over Shoya's questioning, and her taking offense to Ueno's statements. Unlike Ueno, Kawaii often acted like she was above the bullying, but did nothing to stop it. Throughout the whole movie, she tries to present herself as kind and caring, but she avoids facing her own guilt. She thinks, since she didn't directly bully anyone, she cannot be blamed for everything that happened. But if she was actually a caring person, why didn't she talk to the teacher or Shoko's mother before her crying scene? She could have ratted on Shoya after he destroyed the first 2 or 3 hearing aids, but she didn't. She is somebody who only wanted attention, and her older self isn't any different. There is a scene early on where during a music class, she is seen moving her mouth before anyone else in order to trick Shoko into thinking they were singing. This way, she could correct Shoko and come across as a more understanding person. This works both ways, as now she has the attention of the students in the class, and especially Shoko herself, who at that point was a standout among others. This was before her bullying became a trend, so I don't think it was something she did to hurt Shoko, but by tricking her into singing, she was trying to play a puppet master to a naive person. Kawaii's character shows how some people hide their true feelings to appear better than they are, and this only gets worse as she grows up. Now, she wants the attention of Satoshi, only she knows that despite what she may claim, her letting Shoko get bullied was wrong. So when Shoya questions her if she's told anyone about their past, she sees it as a possible problem for for her image. In order to sustain that image, especially in front of Satoshi, she decides to strike first. Before Shoya could possibly bring up the past to show her hand, she throws him under the bus. Since Shoya was the one to blame the most, she makes him out to be so bad that even she was afraid of him, which we know was not even remotely true. But this way, she can manipulate Satoshi to be on her side. The girl literally pulled on his arm like a child, just so she could both literally and emotionally pull him closer to her side. It's only when Satoshi himself talks about letting the past go that she calls Ueno and gathers everyone at the bridge. Notice how there is almost no logical reason for her to call Ueno there. It's because Kawaii knows how her personality is not that likable, making the difference between the quiet Shoya and loud Ueno that much more visible. This way, she can be in the comfortable middle, only she didn't count on it backfiring. The most telling, yet also the most subtle of her defining moments comes at the climax. This scene is so subtle that you can easily miss it if you're not paying much attention to it. It took me multiple watches to even get it myself. After his injury, she knows that she can no longer attack either Shoya or Shoko to make herself look better in comparison, so she uses a different tactic. She uses Shoya's injury to virtue signal in class by having everyone make the paper cranes as a welcome back gift. The kind of stuff that has absolutely no effect on anything. It's kinda like the climate change retards who glue themselves to the road or try to ruin centuries old paintings. Like seriously, what's the point? It wastes the time of the students and has literally no use for Shoya either. It only exists for Kawaii to show everyone how much she cares. And just in case this may not work on Shoya, she opens up the waterworks. Shoya doesn't care, nobody does, he just moves on to other stuff, which is exactly what Kawaii wants. Her waterworks are hard to watch due to how over the top they are, and intentionally so. She is a manipulator, and it's sad that she is barely even noticed by most people because of her nice demeanor. She is like the opposite of Ueno, where Ueno is harsh with her tongue but lets her actions tell how she feels and that she, deep down, does really care. Kawaii is soft on the tongue, but her actions are all selfish, manipulative, and narcissistic. You might have noticed that I've removed Satoshi from the supporting characters list. Satoshi Mashiba is another student who becomes part of Shoya's new friend group. He does not know about the past bullying and treats Shoya and Shoko with kindness. Mashiba's character is basically there to show Ishida how new relationships can help people move forward, which is a purpose Nagatsuka already fulfilled, so his addition didn't do anything new. To me, he came across more as a minor character who's just there to represent the only normal friend in the group. Other than his outsider perspective, he doesn't really contribute much besides being Nagatsuka's one-sided rival and Kawaii's possible crush. He's not a bad character by any means, he's just not as interesting as others. It also doesn't help that he adds no soul to the story on account of him having very little screen time and more importantly, him being a ginger. This leaves the other minor characters to be discussed. Now these are minor due to their limited screen time and not due to their impact on the story or their connection to the characters, as in spite of their on-screen limitations, they do play a major part in the character's life. For this, instead of discussing them each in great detail like the previous ones, I'm going to separate them into groups, starting from Shoya and Shoko's mothers, then the granny and Maria, and finally the teacher and Kazuki Shimada.
ちょっと切りすぎよ。これくらいの方が可愛いわよ。あ、しょうちゃんおかえり。お邪魔してます。
Miyako Ishida and Yaeko Nishimiya are both hot single moms who live in the same area not too far away. They have polar opposite personalities, as one is warm and friendly, while the other cold and strict. Clearly the latter is the dominant one who tells the submissive one to... Wait, sorry, wrong script. Ahem, let's try again.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Both Shoko and Shoya's mothers are two struggling working class women who are trying their best to provide for their children. They both have 2 children each, and Yaeko Nishimiya in particular still has a mother to support her, while Miyako Ishida is a grandmother herself to Maria. These two are almost polar opposites when it comes to personalities. Shoko and Yuzuru's mother is strict and protective, shaped by years of watching her daughters face bullying and discrimination. Her stern demeanor hides the deep love and fear she feels for her children's safety, showing how parents cope with trauma in their own way. She doesn't want Yuzuru to meet Shoya due to his history with her other daughter. Thankfully, she soon warms up to him, even if her poker face says otherwise, and even thanks both him and his mother for saving Shoko by the end. The scene when she begs for forgiveness with her head on the floor was such an emotional one.
西宮さんごめんなさい。またこんな形でご迷惑をおかけしてすみませんでした。
Despite having a more serious aura around her, she is shown to be vulnerable in the movie, especially when she loses her mother, the granny, and when she almost loses her daughter, Shoko. In these scenes, we see her crying, unable to keep herself from breaking down. At the end of the day, she's just a mother who wants the best for her children, which is something she has in common with Shoya's mother. Miyako Ishida is a caring and patient woman who supports her son despite his mistakes. She does this not by supporting his actions, but by letting him know that she condemns them. She works hard to make amends amends for Shoya's past and shows the impact of parenting on a child's ability to change and grow. While I do think she was a bit too soft on Shoya as a kid, she did hold him accountable once she heard how far things had gotten. It's through her that Shoya sees the consequences of his actions, like when he sees her take money out of the bank in order to pay for the hearing aids, or when he sees her injured ear. I love how we're not given any clear answer as to how she was injured. Did she injure herself as a penance for her son, or did Shoko's mother pull it out as revenge? Either way, the fact that she looks at peace with the decision shows what kind of a character she is, while also showing how this event is one of many that truly impacts Shoya and starts to change his thinking.
翔ちゃん、帰るよ。明日からいい子にするんだよ。いい？
And you're adorable.
I'm adorable!
Not every character needs to be thoroughly explored. Some are just given basic traits. Ito, Nishimiya and Maria are two of them. Both are kind, full of warmth, and just nice to be around. Maria is Shoya's niece, while the granny is Shoko and Yuzuru's grandma. Every scene these two are in, no matter how short, is enough to give us an idea on who they are. Maria is a very young child, so her innocence and cuteness makes us wanna save her from all the chaos surrounding other characters, to shield her from the serious situations in general. If only her grandmother thought the same.
死ぬのやめます。死ぬのやめます。
そう。絶対よ。
あ、お母さん。
マリア、翔ちゃんは生き返ったんだよ。
Why would you say that?
Speaking of grannies, Ito Nishimiya arguably has even less screen time, and for what it's worth, she does what she is supposed to. She is a wise granny with lots of love and compassion for her family. She is particularly close to Yuzuru and even tries to learn sign language in spite of her age. Unfortunately, she dies before we ever see her use that skill. I personally did not see her death coming, mostly because I forgot she was even in the story. She is the type of character who has a nice and kind vibe when she is on screen. Together, she and Maria were nice additions to the characters' lives.
Shithead.
From two of the nicest minor characters to two of the most despicable, let's talk about Kazuki Shimada and arguably the biggest asshole of a character in this movie, the school teacher. While everyone is busy hating either Ueno or Kawaii, and deservingly so, I found myself hating this guy the most. We only see him in the flashback scenes, but he leaves enough of an impact to come across as an absolute piece of shit. For starters, this man is a fully grown adult, so the excuse that other characters get, that being they were kids, doesn't apply to this moron. The reason they get a pass is because kids are stupid. They think their behaviors are normal and even acceptable until they're called out for it. That calling out part is the adult's job, especially when he is put in charge. But instead of doing that, the very first scene of someone being bullied in the movie is initiated by him. When Ueno is reading a paragraph, he stops her and insults her in front of the whole class over her reading skills. Yeah, I'm sure this middle school teacher was a child prodigy in his time. Given how nonchalantly he lets a little deaf girl get bullied should show how little this man cares. It's only when the parent puts her foot down when he takes the matter seriously. Not only that, but despite allowing the bullying to carry on for this long, he is the first one to point fingers. He is the one who orders Ishida to stand up. Even a dumbass Karen can tell you how easy it is to bring a crowd together once you give them someone to root for, or in this case, root against. Once Shoya is singled out from the teacher himself, of course the students were going to follow and turn him into the scapegoat. In every scene this guy was in, he seems so disinterested to be a teacher. It's almost like he's just there for a quick paycheck. It's like a student taking attendance for some grades, but then leaving the class immediately right after. The most telling of this was when Shoko finally moves away, and his response is just to move along. An innocent deaf girl was bullied mercilessly in his class, but he treats the situation as if it's just another Tuesday with annoying kids. A proper adult would have at least lectured the students on what they did wrong, but not this asshole. The more I talk about him, the more I'm reminded of the morons that I witnessed in my own school times. Granted, it's not like I was the most well-behaved student myself, but even as a knucklehead, I knew when someone said something that was seriously fucked up. Let me tell you a specific moment from back when I was in 10th grade. I'll put the timer on if you want to skip the following rant. The school was closed for the day, not because of some holiday or function, but because one of the staff members, a male teacher specifically, had committed suicide and died. He was not my teacher per se, but from the other students that he taught, the general consensus was that he was a nice man. It's unclear why he killed himself. Was it debt, depression, or something else? No idea. Everyone was talking about this teacher, and then there was her. This female teacher taught our class, and during the class, she figures she should give her 2 cents on the matter. Now, of course, it's her opinion, so she has the right to have it, but it's been over a decade at this point, and I still haven't forgotten what this bitch said. She said that she was disappointed in the man who killed himself. She didn't care what mental, financial, or any other problems he was facing. None of it mattered, and she was pretty vocal about it too. She claimed that everyone has problems, and so to just deal with it. This would have come across better if she wasn't using it to simultaneously describe how much better she and her family were at dealing with their life problems. You know the kind of teacher I'm talking about. She was the kind whose classes were 70% gossip and 30% actual studying. The kind of person who thinks she's right and that people need to hear what she has to say. The kind of teacher no one likes, but since none of them say such things to her face, she became a self-proclaimed favorite teacher of everyone in her class. Granted, she did have an understandable argument at first, her main 2 points being, 1, he was recently married and even had a kid, not too old if I recall correctly, and 2, she herself had a family member hospitalized, nearly dying in the process. This family member of hers had to fight hard to stay alive, spending lots of time and money, overcoming physical hardships and all. So, in a way, I was able to understand where she came from, but I also think she should have understood that different people live different lives. We didn't know how his married life was, what sort of financial crisis he was having, or any other personal demons he may have been fighting. Just because he was recently married doesn't mean he was happily married. Just because a person somewhere else in the world wants to fight for his or her life doesn't mean everyone values their life the same way. Just because his wife had a kid doesn't mean it was his kid or that he wanted a kid to begin with. It's not like baby trapping is all that hard. That may sound too negative, but just because it's unlikely doesn't mean it's impossible. Unfortunately, I cannot find much information after all these years in any news article, so we may never know the man's circumstances. But I guess it was too much to ask for a narcissistic Karen who would rather give repetitive lectures about how much worse women have it in life compared to men than to just talk about the mental health of such individuals. And this person was literally a health teacher. To this day, she is one of the most annoying teachers I've ever met, always gossiping and calling it knowledge while also being a know-it-all bitch. A colleague that she has known for years just killed himself, and her response was, "I can't care less because that's not something I would ever do or approve of." He should have been thankful for just not having an unhealthy body, because as we all know, no one who is physically or financially healthy has ever killed themselves, right? I'm sorry for going off topic, but that teacher in a silent voice really reminded me of some of my teachers in school. The one who I just gave an example of didn't have the same personality as the movie teacher, with him being mostly quiet while my teacher just won't stop yapping for half the class, every class. But otherwise, they did have one similarity. Neither of them seemed to care about the mental health of anyone.
It's all about me.
The teacher in this movie seems to just let Shoko get bullied because it seems in his mind, if you stand out too much, whether it's intentional or not, you deserve to be treated differently. I can't help but wonder if this teacher thought the same about other not so socially inept students as well, and mentally justified the bad things happening to them as nature takes its course by removing the weaklings. Either way, it was a very fucked up thing to do. All this and more is the reason why this teacher is one of the worst, if not the worst character in the entire movie.
But wait! There's more!
It's time to talk about the final character in this list, Kazuki Shimada. There are literally only 3 scenes of this character that can be analyzed to get a grip on who he was as a person. The ones where he betrays Shoya, one where he's a fast food employee, and one where he apparently saves Ishida from drowning. I really don't have much to say about him given how downright replaceable he was by the end. Seriously, Ishida could have been saved by anyone, but having them be there so conveniently was unnecessary. I'm not saying he didn't have any hints of an arc or a personality, but it's so vague and subtle that just discussing this theory makes me feel like I'm making things up. All we know about him is that he plays the piano. He is still friends with some of his older classmates like Ueno, and that he may feel some guilt over his part in bullying both Shoko and Shoya. Then again, maybe it's for the best. Not every character needs a backstory after all. To be completely honest, I just added him here because the teacher character would otherwise be alone in this category.
Sound fair enough?
Anyway, that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more video essays, subscribe with the notification bell on and comment any video ideas you have for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.